Okay, welcome back to what should be our last video for Chapter 8 in Engineering Economics. In this chapter, we looked at benefit-cost ratio and profitability index. And the two are very similar to each other in that both of them, if you just look at profitability index alone or just look at benefit-cost ratio alone in isolation, and you're trying to use those to choose between different options. Like say we have 3 different projects to choose from, and we want to choose the best project that's going to make us the most profit. Looking at the profitability index by itself could be misleading. The project that has the biggest profitability index doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make us the most money. And the reason for that is because just like with benefit-cost ratio, it is basically a ratio. It's comparing one thing versus another, and it doesn't take into consideration the scale of the project. So frequently it is possible that a project may have a larger profitability index, but if it's a relatively small project, it's not going to make us as much money as a larger project that has a profitability index that's maybe not as high, but in terms of dollars made is in fact more profitable. So we have to employ an incremental approach. This incremental approach is very similar to what we did with benefit-cost ratio. We are going to take our projects, we're going to line them up in order of least to most expensive, and compare them one-on-one. Take the winner of that comparison and then compare it to the next most expensive project, and so on. And what we have here are we have benefits, costs, and investment costs for 3 projects. And these are actually the same numbers that we used in the example problem where we compared the 3 using benefit-cost ratio. So we should find the same result. We should still find that one of these 3 projects is better than the other 2, just using a slightly different method to do so. So here I have actually this is the same spreadsheet I used earlier for comparing these 3 projects using benefit-cost ratio. So I reordered them in the order 1, 3, 2 because of the cost. The investment costs increased from 5 to 14 to 20. And in fact, even if we look at the combined investment and operating cost, still they're in order from least to most expensive, 9 to 15 to 28. So we've got them reshuffled around, so we're going to first compare projects 1 and 3. We'll see which of these 2 is the best project, and then whichever of them is the best, we'll then compare it to the third option, which is actually project 2, and we'll see which one is the winner. So I still have that comparison set up from the last example when we used benefit-cost ratio. I have my values here for project 1 and project 3, and I'm going to find the difference between them, the delta. So these values here are set up to find the delta B, the difference in benefits, 21,000 minus 12,000. The change or delta, the difference in investment, 14,000 minus 5,000 gives us 9. And the delta of the annual operating costs, 1,000 minus 4,000, gave us a negative 3,000 here. So in the previous example, we found the benefit-cost ratio of the projects. So really, I'm just going to change this last row here. I'll just let's just delete all that out of there. And instead of finding benefit-cost ratio, in this example problem, I'm going to find the profitability index, given whatever our interest rate happens to be. Okay, so the profitability index is equal to the benefit minus the annual operating expense, and those two terms are on the top of the ratio, and then we divide that by the investment amount. So I can see that project 1 has a profitability index of 1.6. Project 3 has a profitability index of 1.43. And the delta, the comparison of the two, has a profitability index of 1.33. So when we do this incremental analysis and we find the delta between the two projects, and we find the profitability index of those delta values, and we find that it has a profitability index greater than 1, that means we want to go with the more expensive option. So comparing projects 1 and 3, the fact that this value right there is greater than 1 means that 3 is the better option. So the winner of round 1 is project 3. So we come down here and take project 3 and compare it to project 2. So when we used benefit cost ratio, we found project 2 was the winner. We should come up with the same result, but let's check that out first. Let's verify those results. So instead of calculating benefit cost ratio, I'm going to calculate profitability index. So I'm just going to take my profitability index formula from up here, round 1, and paste it down here for round 2. So again, we see project 3 has a profitability index of 1.43, and project 2 has a profitability index of 1.35. And the delta between the two has a profitability index of 1.17. So again, this is a good example to show that if we just look at profitability index alone, 1.43 is bigger than 1.35. So if we only just looked at the PI values, we might say, oh, well, project 3 is the way to go. But using this incremental approach, looking at the delta values and finding the PI of the delta values, the fact that this is greater than 1 means that, again, using this profitability index method, we arrive at the same conclusion, that between these three projects, the best option is project 2. And so here's the screenshot from a spreadsheet I had made earlier, but shows the same results. In the first round, we compared J and K, projects 1 and 3, found that the more expensive option, project 3, was the better option. So then we take that option and compare it to the next most expensive, which would be project 2, which is identified up here with the letter L. And again, we come up with a profitability index greater than 1, indicating that we should go with the more expensive project. So either way, two different formats, two different spreadsheets set up, showing you different ways to go about this, but the same result. We're finding that project 2 is the best option using the incremental profitability index method. So that brings us to the end of Chapter 8. If you've got any questions, please post them to the Blackboard discussion board, or be sure to ask those questions in class. See you next time.